Hello everyone. Welcome to the Tech Showdown. Delve into the realm of cloud engineering or conquer the networking landscape with Cisco CCNA. Let's explore together. CCNA exam tests a candidate's knowledge and skills related to network fundamentals, network access, IP connectivity, IP services, security fundamentals, and automation and programmability. The following topics are general guidelines for the content likely to be included on the exam. Let's go and see what Cisco Blueprint says and a potential cloud engineer needs to know to get a job and work without stress. Let's start with network fundamentals, which constitutes 20% of the exam. First, let's explain the role and function of network components. Please note that in this presentation we will use two buckets to better present to you what is necessary or not. These will be the green and red buckets. Green for the topics you need and red for those are not necessary. Routers. Cloud engineers need to know the basics of what a router is, but just it. No configuration is needed. And this will be in your green bucket. Next, Layer 2 and Layer 3 switches goes to red bucket. Cloud engineers don't touch switch technology. There is just one case when L2 switch understanding is needed, and that is through AWS Direct Connect, but it is unlikely you will do that configuration. Then next generation firewalls and IPS, which goes to the green bucket. Cloud engineers need to know the basic understanding of firewalls, mainly the L3, L4 OSI model. AWS has the concept of a network access control list, stateless firewall and security group stateful firewall. And access points should be in red bucket, as cloud engineers don't touch wireless technology. We have controllers, or best known as Cisco DNA Center and WLC. That knowledge is not applicable to the cloud and definitely goes to red bucket. Endpoints and servers. Cloud engineers need to know those concepts and have hands-on practice, so these should be in the green bucket. We have PoE, or Power over Ethernet, and this will go the red bucket since cloud engineers don't use Power over Ethernet. Let's move forward to describing characteristics of network topology architectures. First, 2-tier. Then second, 3-tier. Next is spine leaf. Cloud engineers doesn't need to know those concepts and will certainly goes to red bucket. Fourth is 1. Cloud engineers need to know 1, as many public cloud provider provide services related to 1, and this goes to the green bucket. Small office or home office, best known as SOHO, will definitely goes to red bucket because cloud engineers don't use that concept. And on-premise and cloud. Yes, these are additional to green bucket because both are valuable knowledge. Now, comparing physical interface and cabling types. Single-mode fiber, multi-mode fiber, and copper. These are not needed for cloud engineers, so you don't need to study connections like Ethernet, shared media and point-to-point, and identify interface and cable issues like collisions, errors, mismatched duplex, and/or speed, as cloud engineer never goes to the data center or comms room. Compare TCP to UDP is definitely valuable knowledge, so it's for the green bucket. Configure and verify IPv4 addressing and subnetting are also valuable knowledge. Describe the need for private IPv4 addressing is an additional valuable knowledge. Configure and verify IPv6 addressing and prefix is for green bucket since it's definitely a valuable knowledge. Another necessary guideline is describing IPv6 address types because it's definitely valuable knowledge, but AWS simplify IPv6 configuration. For unicast, either global, unique local, and link local, anycast, multicast, modified EUI64, verify IP parameters for client OS such as Windows, Mac OS, Linux are definitely worth to know. It will help you in your daily cloud engineering job, so it's for the green bucket. Describe wireless principles is for red bucket because that knowledge is useless for cloud engineers, unless you work from home, and you need troubleshoot your wireless connection. Explain virtualization fundamentals such as server virtualization, containers, and VRFs are also for green bucket for server virtualization and containers, but for VRF is for red bucket. VRF concept is very similar to the AWS segment. The segment configuration is one of the steps when you configure AWS 1. You don't need to study VRF for your cloud engineer job. Describe switching concepts. Never use that knowledge as a cloud engineer, so it's for red bucket. Let's jump to network access, which also constitutes 20% of the exam. Configure and verify VLANs in a normal range spanning multiple switches. You never use that knowledge as a cloud engineer. So it's for red bucket. Access ports in data and voice, default VLAN, configure and verify interswitch connectivity trunk ports and native VLAN. These will never be used as a cloud engineer. Layer 2 and 3 protocols like Cisco Discovery Protocol and LLDP and LACP Rapid PVST+ and Spanning Tree Protocol, those technologies are also not for you, so these are again for red bucket. Management access connections such as Telnet, SSH, HTTP, HTTPS, console are for green bucket. You will use it daily except Telnet, that is for red bucket. Next is IP connectivity and constitutes 25% of the exam. Interpret the components of routing table, this is for red bucket. You will not use that knowledge. Routing protocol code, prefix, network mask and more concept is related to that topic. However, configure and verify IPv4 and IPv6 static routing, default route, network route are for green bucket. This is your responsibility as cloud engineer to know it. You cannot get job without this knowledge. Don't study routing protocol OSPF, this is definitely for red bucket. Then, IP services, which constitutes 10% of the exam. Configure and verify inside source NAT using static and pools. AWS has NAT gateway for it. Just enable it using AWS UI or CloudFormation. In my opinion, NAT concept provided by Cisco is very valuable. Configure and verify NTP operating in a client and server mode. All engineers should know network time protocol. Explain the role of DHCP and DNS within the network is also for green bucket. All engineers must know DNS and understand DHCP. Explain the function of SNMP in network operations and describe the use of syslog features including facilities and levels. These are useless knowledge as you will work with AWS CloudWatch. Configure network devices for remote access using SSH and describe the capabilities and function of TFTP or FTP in the network is for green bucket, since that will be your daily task. Remote access to EC2 instances. AWS simplifies it by providing new services like Session Manager. Another guidelines which constitutes 15% of the exam is security fundamentals, and be reminded that 50% from this topic will be beneficial for you. Define key security concepts such as threats, vulnerabilities, exploits, and mitigation techniques, and describe security program elements such as user awareness, training, and physical access control, and compare authentication, authorization, and accounting concepts are very valuable and all IT engineers need to know it. Configure and verify device access control using local passwords is for red bucket. You will not do configure device access control, AWS has for that IAM service. Describe security password policies elements, such as management, complexity, and password alternatives like multi-factor authentication, certificates, and biometrics are another valuable knowledge, and all IT engineers need to know it. Describe IPsec remote access and site-to-site VPNs is another useful knowledge, as often on-prem network is connected via IPsec tunnel with a cloud VPC. Configure and verify access control lists. You must be master in that configuration. You will be tested configuring network access control list and security groups. Configure and verify layer 2 security features like DHCP snooping, dynamic ARP inspection, and port security is for red bucket. Layer 2 security configuration is not for you. Describe wireless security protocols such as WPA, WPA2, and WPA3. Configure and verify WLAN within the GUI using WPA2 PSK. As I mentioned before, wireless technology is not usable for cloud engineer. Lastly is automation and programmability, which constitutes 10% of the exam. 70% from this topic will be beneficial for you. Explain how automation impacts network management. Automation everywhere is what I like. 6 to 7 years ago, when I used Python scripts to automate network configuration, that was something new. Now, in the public cloud, it is a reality. Welcome to infrastructure as code. Compare traditional networks with controller-based networking and describe controller-based, software-defined architecture such as overlay, underlay, and fabric is for red bucket. This is not for cloud engineer. Separation of control plane and data plane and northbound and southbound APIs are additional for green bucket because these are a valuable concept. Compare traditional campus device management with Cisco DNA Center-enabled device management are again not for cloud engineers. Describe characteristics of REST-based APIs such as CRUD, HTTP verbs, and data encoding are valuable concepts. Recognize the capabilities of configuration management mechanisms Puppet, Chef, and Ansible will be very helpful since you will work with those tools in the future. Recognize components of JSON encoded data are also be put in green bucket. JSON and YAML are critical in the cloud. You must know it. In summary, you must know around 40 to 45% from the Cisco CCNA blueprint to be a valuable employee as a cloud engineer. Then here's the question for you. Do you really need to pass the Cisco CCNA exam? In this video, we have shown you facts in getting ahead as a cloud engineer. Cisco CCNA has been a foundational start, but it is essential to know what is more beneficial for you. In summary, network fundamentals constitute 20% of the exam, wherein only 9.72% is relevant to cloud engineering and 10.28% for Cisco engineers. Second pointer is network access, which constitutes 20% also in the exam and has 14.66% not relevant topics because only 5.34% out of it is useful. Next category is for IP connectivity that constitutes 25% of the entire exam, has 11.85% helpful to Cisco engineers and not for cloud engineers since it has only 13.15% beneficial topic. For IP services, it constitutes 10% of the exam and has 4.44% not relevant for cloud engineers but has 5.56%. Next is security fundamentals, which constitutes 15% and covers equally 7.5% of topics related and not to cloud engineers. Lastly, 10% of the exam is automation and programmability. 2.86% of it is not useful, but 7.14% has a huge relevance to cloud computing. Now, 51.59% in summation is not relevant if you're gonna choose being a cloud engineer, since it constitutes only 48.41% useful topics out from this exam. In reality, this 48.41% is related to Cisco solutions and network agnostic topics is just around 40% of this curriculum if I'm being straightforward. This is my subjective opinion. In conclusion, it's essential to recognize that cloud engineering, with its emphasis on scalability, elasticity, and efficiency, is indispensable in today's digital transformation. Cloud engineers adeptly navigate virtualized environments, leverage automation tools, and deploy applications seamlessly. While Cisco's expertise remains foundational, cloud engineers excel in harnessing distributed systems, containerization, and orchestrating resources dynamically. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get ahead of more cloud computing snippets.